up next, Lorraine.
Hey everyone, nice to be here and tell you about our experience with the Gold Hill neighborhood and the Radio Watch program. Gold Hill is located in just outside the city limits of Grass Valley. We're at the bottom of Highway 174, Fax Highway there.
And Lorraine, I'm sorry, I didn't tell you the microphones are out here. There's 4 of them, so stay close to the edge and talk to the microphones as much as you can.
Okay.
Thanks.
We have 87 acres and 175 parcels. So the Empire Mine State Historic Park surrounds much of our neighborhood. You'll see we've also got the Bennett Meadows on one edge and then some private forest on the other. So we're fairly surrounded by forest. So this is just sort of how it went for us. Our neighborhood started having our first Firewise discussions last July. Oh, my colors are all different. Work out so well. That was right around the time when I learned about the ARIES program, and I became very interested in that and contacted Mark right away in August. And I made a flyer and went door to door in my whole neighborhood, put one on every doorstep, and we had a good response. So we had our very first meeting with Mark in September. And then in October, we had our first Firewise community meeting. So our radio group and our Firewise effort are sort of getting started on parallel tracks. We aren't actually an official Firewise community yet, close. So we are moving on parallel tracks and overlapping. We had our second radio meeting where we got trained in how to use the radios in October. And then 2 days later, we had our first net, which is the word for meetings on the radio. And then we've settled into having these nets twice a month. This is our first Firewise community meeting that we held in the neighborhood. And a lot of the people there were by that point involved with the radio group. So why were people interested in this? It was because of fire. A lot of people are actually quite anxious about the fire, as everyone knows. But it wasn't just fire. There's a lot of things to be anxious about these days. And, you know, extreme weather and all kinds of other unrest. So it was just safety, mostly. And this was a quote I put on the flyer that I used to advertise it. It's from a political scientist that said that it is the personal ties among members of the community that determine survival during a disaster and recovery in its aftermath. So
very true.
Yeah. So that's sort of why we were doing it. So now we have 12 households with 16 active participants. There's a lot of couples that are involved. And so what we've learned, one of the things, and it's really high on people's list, is that it's just or establish relationships in the neighborhood. We're more connected, we know each other better now, and makes people feel safe. So that's a big value. And then our communications now go beyond the radios. We established a text message communications, and we use that quite a lot, and we've used it during the snow situations that we've had. And we're looking into using WhatsApp also, because you can have groups on that. So we want to have WhatsApp group just for our whole neighborhood so we can communicate better. But things like what roads are open, can you get to Safeway, did the plow come through, what was that noise, it was a tree coming down, all that we're doing now with our texting. But we got started as a group through the radio. What we've learned, radios is weird, it takes a while to get used to. What I do in my group is I'm having each person be what's called net control when it facilitates the conversation on the radio. Sometimes it's just one person that does it every meeting, but I'm having everybody do it so they have experience doing that, and they just take more ownership in the whole group and understand what's involved. I thought 2 times a month meeting might be too much for people, but you know, there's a lot of us older people that aren't we were born with the electronics in our DNA and how to work it. So people want to get experience using the equipment regularly. It was really helpful for me to visit Casey at her road home and sit in on a net because the jargon is different, how you talk on the radio, what people say, just to get comfortable with how it all works. And you can also listen in on the nets held by Aries and the ham radio groups, just to hear how it goes on the net. We also have a ham radio operator in our neighborhood, and they're a member of Aries. And Aries has somebody at Emergency Control Center. So our ham radio operator in our neighborhood has direct access to the OES center. So that gives us another great line of communication. Other than that, all we have is banner repeater. So that gives us a really great line of communication. So having a ham radio operator improves everything. Things that you still want to do. We still haven't worked out a good way, our plan to communicate with everybody else in the neighborhood during an emergency. Like, how are we going to get the word out on what the plan is for evacuation or things like that. We're still young and have things to develop. I think we need to have some practices with staged emergencies because learning how to talk on the radio is much different than learning how to respond in an emergency. So I'm hoping we'll get some practice with that. And then I'd like to, I know we have a lot of folks in our neighborhood that are retired emergency response folks, retired military, and I want to just plug them into our group so that we can access their skills when and and then recommendation, I'm hoping for more cross-fertilization with the different radio groups. We can learn a lot from each other. And then I just wanted to say, I've kind of geeked out on some handouts for my group. I learn better by reading, and sometimes you need to refer to it quick to remember what this button is for on the radio or whatever. So I've got a lot of simple handouts that I'm happy to share with any other. So started.
And Lorraine, those are on the website now, all 4 of your handouts, and I'll be showing that in the resource of the month. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorraine.